Yeah. So, as you may know, I recently finished a Doctor Who Guilty Pleasure marathon, and as you also may know, as I've mentioned before, when ranking with Doctor Who for me, I usually choose from each series of NuWho at least one episode that I consider episode or story that I consider best, and one that I consider either a guilty pleasure or a personal favourite. Yeah, and that's worked out quite well for me. It usually means that I can look back on the very good stuff. But then recently, when I began thinking about trying to apply the same thing to worst episodes of New Who, then I was presented with a problem. In that there, in that I can look at each series, and I can certainly pick out the weakest episode of each series. But then again, with quite a lot of the series so far, there are very few series that actually have bad episodes. I mean, and there are some series that have more than one bad episode. You could say that series 2 has two bad episodes, whereas series 4, well, it has a few weak ones. It doesn't really have a bad episode. So after spending a long time thinking about this, I eventually thought, you know what, just have it. I'm gonna try and do a full ranking of New Who. And this was tricky, trying to find the ideal place to put each and every single episode of New Who into one list. This was really, really tricky. Plus, I so this is going to be a series of videos. So I've decided to split it into tiers. Now, with each tier, I've got 11 tiers in total. 10 tiers each of 13 stories, and one tier, the one I'm going to do today, of 5 stories. Now, I'm doing this to kind of avoid overloading this video and overloading you with every single ranking at once. So I'm going to do this in a series of episodes, so this one will be the bottom 5, and then as I work my way up through each tier, it'll go up and up and up until eventually you get to tier 1 and the episodes and stories that I consider best. So keep in mind for that, but here we go, with tier 11. Now this is technically the tier of the worst episodes of New Who, and even then, I say that with quotation marks, in that there are going to be some episodes or stories throughout the list that I'm sure people are going to be upset, like, why is my favourite episode so low? Bear in mind, this is just my personal opinion. I may have your favourite episode down here in tier 11, or I may have it in tier 9, and you're like, why isn't it higher? I was like, it's just my opinion. And I'd love to know yours down below if you're prepared to put it, or even if I say a particular episode in a spot, tell me where you would put it. So here we are. Now, number 135. What I consider the weakest or worst episode of New Who, Sleep No More. The ninth episode of Series 9 from 2015. This was kind of Doctor Who's attempt to do something in the style of sort of like Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity. Doctor Who meets that kind of branch of the horror genre. And when I viewed it the second time, I certainly could see, I understood it a lot better. I understood what they were trying to do. Does that make it good? I don't know if I'd stretch that far. I still think this is a pretty weak episode. I mean, there are some genres that Doctor Who can work quite well with, such as the horror genre. It's managed to dip its toe in several times, but really this branch of kind of Blair Witch style, I really don't think it played to Doctor Who's strength. Plus, the monster of this episode is the grit from the corner of your eye when you're sleeping. That being turned into a monster, that's, yeah, no. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. Moving up one spot, number 134, The Eaters of Light, i.e. the 10th episode of Series 10. Now, in fairness, they have done Doctor Who stories like this before, kind of trying to uncover a mystery about history, such as Agatha Christie's disappearance, Shakespeare's lost play. That they have managed to kind of cover certain aspects of the mysteries of history, and going after what happened to the Ninth Legion, that's a fairly good idea, but honestly, I feel they could have done so much more with this idea. I mean, you're in Scotland, you got Romans, Celts, and seemingly a creature that feeds on light. But the thing is, I never really saw the creature in its entirety. I mean, it was always kind of skewed in darkness, or you only saw things from certain perspectives, so you never truly saw the creature. And it's just like, oh, come on, if you're gonna give us a creature like this that feeds on light, or the darkness, kind of give us something really good. And even with the Roman soldiers, they're interesting, but I just wish we could have had a bit more of them. I mean, the episode I feel is quite rushed, but even then, I I just feel like they could have done a bit more with it. One spot up, 133, Boomtown, i.e. the 10th episode of Series 1. This one saw the return of Margaret Blaine, i.e. One of the survivors from the Slitheen episode, the Aliens of London and World War Three. And while Aliens of London and World War Three is one of my guilty pleasures, I still personally think this is the weakest episode of Series 1. It's... I mean, once again, I hesitate to call it bad, and they do some quite kind of good stuff in there. I mean, the chase scene that they're having with Margaret, where they keep teleporting her, that's just hilarious. But the rest of the episode, I feel, moves kind of slowly, and I think I never entirely got why the TARDIS suddenly went into meltdown above the rift. I never really understood that. I mean, maybe if I go back and rewatch it, there'll be a good reason why, but to me, at the time, it was just like, okay, the TARDIS is here to recharge, it's doing so, and then suddenly the rift is opening, and then the whole city is going into meltdown. I I don't get it. But, yeah, anyway, one spot up, 132, Orphan 55, i.e. the third episode of Series 12. This, once again, like Sleep No More, I can see what they're trying to do. This was Doctor Who's attempt to do kind of a message episode about the future, about how mankind needs to improve itself and everything. But honestly, this, I once again I feel it was a bit too rushed. If they'd just taken their time and maybe had a bit more to it, it could have been something really good. But the message at the end of, you know what, this is just one future. It's still a possibility to change, because if you don't, then this is what we're heading for. Honestly, I still think it was pretty weak. But that's just my opinion. And my final choice for Tier 11, number 131, Fear Her, from the 11th episode of Series 2. I know some of you might have been expecting Love and Monsters to show up here. We'll get to it. But, yeah, looking back, Fear Her, I think, was the most disappointing episode. I mean, going from our point of view, 6 years into the future, to see the Olympic Games, okay, that's fine, that's good. But then, and the kind of, how best to describe it? I mean, it could have been quite threatening, just someone, but then I'm still not entirely sure if it works. I mean, I don't know if the child's creepy enough, or whether it's just that she's a bit too quaint. I'm not really sure. Just, they could have done a lot with this. They could have made the Isola something really, really creepy. But even then, I just don't think it goes sinister enough. But there you go. That's my bottom tier. The episodes I consider below everything else. We can only get better from here. So join me soon for tier 10. I'll see you when it's done.